Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this video, I've got news about a new R3 partnership. R3s, you know, strong proponents for XRP, building on top of the XRP ledger. I'm going to tell you how that can tie into long-term XRP adoption and ultimately what we're all hoping for, upward price movement eventually as the market matures and acknowledges that, hey, fundamentals actually matter. Maybe we're going to throw money into cryptocurrencies. They should actually do something, right? So I'm going to cover that. Got some bearish price indicators on Bitcoin. Just going to run through a few bullet points on you. Not going to dwell on that too much. Fun piece. I think it was from A&B Crypto. I'm going to pull it back up here. You guys know about the lunch meeting between Justin Sun and Warren Buffett, right? Justin Sun being the Tron founder. Why can't I say that? Anyway, he was talking a bit about that. So for those of you that don't know, Justin Sun, he donated to a charity, a Warren Buffett charity, about $4.5 million. And one of the things you get with that is a lunch with Warren Buffett, who is known very publicly and famously as a very anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto type of dude. So we got a very pro-crypto guy with Justin Sun and anti-crypto with Warren Buffett. And they're going to have lunch later this month. So we got a little bit of news on that, which I think will be fun. Also, check this out. I wasn't expecting this. House GOP leader today said, quote, "I like Bitcoin," with the GOP standing for Grand Old Party, which is another name for the Republican Party within the United States. So that's kind of bullish, right? I'll share that with you. And then I'm going to close the video with a continuation of a Twitter debate between Peter Zacharias and one of my favorite XRP community members ever, Galgatron. I first started covering this thread because this is happening in real time. So I covered this thread, as far as it had gone to the point in my last video. And it continued. So I'm not going to reread the whole thing. If you want to check it out, go ahead. I quickly skimmed through it, so we're kind of going to experience it together, but I did quickly skim through it, and it looks like the concepts in this portion of the thread are disconnected enough that I don't have to revisit the whole thing from what I could tell anyway. So again, that'll be towards the tail end of the video, but get your Orville Redenbacher popcorn ready and sit back, because it's fun watching Galgatron debate anybody about cryptocurrency. I freaking love it. But before we get going here, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you. All right, on to the content. This is from Cointelegraph, this piece titled, "R3 to support a startup-focused stock exchange in Brazil." Blockchain consortium R3 has partnered with Brazilian fintech company Banco Mare, and I hope I'm saying that right. Let's get a little bit iffy when I'm saying anything, whether it's a name of a human or a business or anything. I get a little bit iffy about it. So I don't know. I could have said Banco Mare, so I went with Banco Mare. I don't know. You guys can tell me below. Just let me say dumb stuff sometime. It's going to be okay. Anyway, partner up with them to launch a stock exchange for investing in technology firms. Banco Mare, a blockchain-powered digital bank focused on financial inclusion, intends to build a tokenized stock exchange offering investments in technology companies with, quote, social impact, Cointelegraph Brazil reports July 16th, which happens to be today. The new R3 technology backed platform, provisionally named BVM12, provisionally, that's catchy as hell, keep that name, BVM12, will purportedly open a new funding source for technology startups as well as enable individual investors to generate dividends from investments in new technologies, the report notes. Rio de Janeiro-based Banco Mare has reportedly conducted its first informal consultations with the Brazilian Securities and Exchange Commission and is reportedly planning to make an official request to the agency in August of 2019. Banco Mare CEO Alexander Albuquerque claimed that the new venture aims to democratize risky investment and bring low-income public to the stock market. You know, as I read through this, I appreciate that the news is getting out in any capacity, but my one gripe about stuff like this, and I know I said it before, it's like, they don't give details, and that's not necessarily Cointelegraph's fault if the details aren't being publicly announced or not being publicly announced, but it's just when it comes to crypto media, it's just like the information, it's specifically on a detail level, it's just not quite there. And so what am I supposed to pull out of this? Because, you know, I'm always sitting here thinking about, okay, well, what does this all mean for XRP? Because it's R3 technology, right? We know that R3 made the Corda network and the Corda settler. Corda settler, you can actually use XRP to settle your smart contracts that are facilitated through the Corda network. and will this have anything it linked up with that? And so it makes me wonder, but there aren't enough details to even reasonably speculate beyond. With the movement of money on an exchange like this, and it is speculation, but the court of settler, if there's any sort of money that needs to get moved, you could use the court of settler. That would be another opportunity for XRP to actually be used. And anytime XRP is being used, whether this comes to fruition or not, and I don't know, but if it does, XRP needs to be held by a particular entity. And why does that matter? Well, because every time XRP needs to be used for any sort of use case, then there will be middlemen facilitating. Like, for instance, with XRapid, you've got market makers, you got your exchanges. XRP actually has to be held. What does that do to supply and demand? Well, long term, if you have enough adoption and if XRP is in fact used enough, that will push the price up over time. It'll affect the availability of XRP. That's one piece of the puzzle. Then, of course, on top of that, there's the retail speculation side. And you know what? This will be a good opportunity to make a point that I've been wanting to make forever that I keep forgetting to talk about when I'm recording a video. It's on the case of. It's on the point of XRP price. Have you heard the FUD that XRP is too fast, and since it's so fast, XRP doesn't need to be valued to any notable length to actually be used, and as a result, XRP is never going to be. That's the FUD case, that XRP is never going to go up in tremendous value because you don't need it to be priced at. Well, there are a lot of reasons that's true, but there's one in particular that I don't believe I've cited on this channel, and I'll just speak off the top of my head here. I don't have to go into great depth on this right now. But conceptually, one of the big reasons I have a problem with the concept of XRP being too fast, other than simple ones I have cited before, for example, that most of the XRP in existence is not being traded. So in terms of what people are buying and selling, as far as the buying and selling pressure goes, it's just with what's available. But so when the FUD comes out and they're talking about there's 100 billion XRP, not available for sale though, and so that's never factored in. That's one thing, But what I'm always thinking is this is not how humans operate. If humans operate by investing in something because it's actually being adopted, I can tell you what they're not doing. No one is doing this, and you can't even do it accurately. When you're a speculator in a cryptocurrency like XRP, you're not trying to figure out how much XRP is going to be used for Ripple's use case or the sum of all use cases. Good luck trying that. That's one hell of a moving target. And I know, thanks to former Ripple employee Bob Way, Ripple actually tries to do that. To what degree that's even feasible to pull off, I mean, I'm highly skeptical. It's too much of a moving target to figure out like what price it would need to be for this or that. But even when you're talking about need, this is not how humans behave. I've never seen anyone in the world, this is my own original thought, I've never seen anyone point that out. This is not how humans behave. Nobody's trying to calculate how much would need to be used, and why would that dictate what the price would be? That is not how humans behave. Instead, if you have confidence in XRP that it's going to be used, your buying decision is going to be based on that confidence, ideally, especially as humans parse out more the specifics, the fundamentals of the underlying technology and ultimate adoption. As more of that happens, you're going to see, of course, price break away from Bitcoin, this and that. I've talked about that ad nauseum, so don't need to go into that part any further. But it's going to be simple supply and demand, and especially as institutional investors jump in, and they're going to take a much more nuanced approach into which coins are actually, which has great technology, which coins are actually being adopted in a real way. They're going to look at that. And then as more buy pressure is introduced into the market, as more people enter, more institutions enter, that's what's going to affect the price of XRP. Nobody's doing math equations to figure out how quick an XRP transaction is conducted on XRapid. Nobody in the history of mankind is sitting there has ever done that to try and figure that out and let that determine how much they're going to purchase. That just completely takes the human element out of the equation, and that makes no sense to me whatsoever. So that's my thoughts on that, and I've never shared it with you, and I've really been meaning to it every time. I've thought about it 5 times over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, oh, God, I keep meaning to say that. So anyway, I finally got it out. I feel better now. Cool. On to the next piece here. I think we covered that well enough. I'm just going to hit the bullet points on this one. This is from CoinDesk. Key Bitcoin price indicator turns bearish in first since December. And so here's 4 bullet points. I'm just going to read these, and you can take it for what it's worth. Bitcoin, here's the first bullet point. Bitcoin could fall to the July 2nd low of $9,614 and may break lower in the short term as the widely tracked MACD, which is moving average convergence divergence, histogram on the 3-day chart has turned bearish for the first time since December. Bullet point 2. Buyer exhaustion above $12,000 as seen on the weekly chart also supports the case for a stronger correction. Point 3. Dips below $9,000 could be short-lived courtesy of an impending golden crossover on the 3-day chart. Point 4. A weekly close above $12,000 would indicate a resumption of the rally from April lows near $4,000. Okay, I don't think anybody's surprised that there's a pullback from when it hit $14,000. In terms of the short-term movement here, a couple things I want to point out, especially since there's been some FUD, and I've covered this, those FUD predictions about XRP, how it's going down to like single digits, like 8 cents or 13 cents or 16 cents. That assumes that XRP was going to crash far below this, so I wanted to state that's not really the prediction. It's just kind of low temporarily, and it's probably going to go back up. But long term, none of the fundamentals here have changed. Humans are behaving like humans, and given that we're at the beginning stages of a bull market, the gyrations in terms of price happening here don't particularly matter too much to me. I am interested in covering it more than I was during the bear market because it's probably more fun for most people to hear stuff about price. Admittedly, probably a lot more interesting about XRP because this is an XRP channel, but a lot more fun when things get bullish. And so for XRP, price wise, just a matter of time, folks. That's my humble opinion, not financial advice, but I think I'm going to say it again. I haven't said this in a while. I believe especially even if just Ripple achieves their vision for how they're positioning XRP as a bridge currency for a settlement mechanism for global payments, converting from one fiat to another, if they achieve that, and as more institutions and speculators enter the space over a long period of time, I think that there are going to be a lot of cryptocurrencies, single coins, that will have multi-trillion-dollar market caps. And if we're right about XRP and it is globally adopted, I think it can be one of them. And I don't care if that sounds wacky to anybody. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying I think there's an opportunity, and I'm willing to be involved with this highly risky investment, as it is perceived, because I'm basing it on the fundamentals, and I think that I'm early. So happy to do it, but I'm also not counting on this for retirement, so I got to say that as well. If I'm completely wrong, it's not going to hurt me. But if I'm right, it could be worth a lot of money, maybe. So who knows? I'm just I'm having too much fun with this. So one way or another, whatever, it will be what it is. But I'm optimistic. That's what I'm saying. All right, check out this piece. This is from ambcrypto.com. It's titled "Catching Up or Playing Catch Up." Justin Sun talks with Warren Buffett lunch. And the piece begins, while Facebook's involvement with cryptocurrency has pulled in mainstream attention, it has overshadowed the decade-long innovations led by crypto technologists. In an effort to clear some of this fog, Tron CEO Justin Sun took to the internet to share his recipe for success amidst the turbulent crypto market. Sharing his first secret, Sun said, and here's a quote, "The community is the top priority. If you look back in history, it was the most important thing for Charlie Lee of Litecoin, too." He further stressed on the need to evolve after quoting the saying, "One day in crypto is like 1 year in traditional fiat industry." Yeah, it feels like that, doesn't it? Citing the above suggestions as paramount for dominating the crypto space. Sun shed some light, that's weird to say, on his ongoing request to democratize cryptocurrency. Sun, well known as a marketing genius, wants to use the highly anticipated Warren Buffett lunch as a communication opportunity between the traditional crypto community and institutional investors. Ooh, very wise, Mr. Sun. In addition to conceding his wish to gain wisdom from the traditional investor, Sun argued that Buffett's preconceived notion about crypto is due to his decade-old interaction with Bitcoin. He proclaimed, and so here's a quote from Sun again, 10 years has passed since Bitcoin's invention. There are lots of other applications running on the blockchain for so long. I also want to keep him updated on this amazing progress." And I'll tell you guys, if I could pay, like, not $4.5 million, but if I could pay a little bit to just, like, be a fly on the wall and hear what this conversation's like, I would do it if that were even possible. Can you imagine what this lunch is going to be like? I assume that they're going to be adults and it'll be perfectly cordial, but just in terms of the content when they're talking back and forth, presumably a good bit of it's going to be about crypto, one would think. And I would love to hear Warren Buffett's response after you hear somebody that's actually in the world of crypto and actually educated on it speak. And so I assume that his talking points would be different than the way that I'd phrase it, because I've talked about my reason that I believe the crypto asset class is here to stay, having to do. I'm not going to revisit the whole thing, but it just has to do with businesses that being built on top of the ledger, the blockchain, that could not otherwise exist. So of course it's got staying power. That's what I would say to him anyway. But next piece here. Oh yeah, this was just kind of cool to see. I was listening to the Digital Asset Investor the other day, and he was talking about how on this is CNBC, right? Yeah, it was CNBC. He was talking about how they're tracking the price of the cryptocurrencies and XRP wasn't up there. And he was kind of bemoaning that. And he's like, why isn't it up there? And talking about all the other coins that were listed. And then he tweeted this out today. Hell has frozen over. Ripple and XRP shown on CNBC. And sure enough, they got this. I guess Ron Paul's on. Anyway, but sure enough, there you go. For whatever reason, XRP and Ripple's listed. And Alex Cobb responded, DAI literally called it yesterday. And yes, he did. Absolutely. So maybe somebody was listening. Who knows? I just thought it was kind of interesting, so I'll share it with you. All right, this is for a tweet from Anthony Pompliano. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said, I like Bitcoin, on national television in an interview with @JoeSquawk this morning. It would be incredible if supporting Bitcoin became the cool thing to do for politicians. And there's a piece on this by CNBC titled, I like Bitcoin, says House GOP leader McCarthy, while bashing Facebook's Libra coin plans. Okay, and so I'm going to read just a little snippet of this from you. Then we're going to get into some more XRP stuff very shortly. I promise you that. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy told CNBC on Tuesday that he likes the decentralized nature and the security of Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin and the security of the blockchain ledger technology behind cryptocurrencies, the California Republican said, as he criticized Facebook's plans for a Libra digital coin ahead of hearings on Capitol Hill this week. Libra will be pegged to a basket of government-backed money compared with Bitcoin, which is highly volatile in price and derives value from factors including its its ability to enable instantaneous, anonymous global payments, and as an investment. Yeah. So it's really about market value because it's humans that decide what the price of Bitcoin is. It's also not anonymous, CNBC, so you should know that. It is not anonymous. It's pseudo-anonymous. That's it. Anyway, the piece continues. Nobody controls Bitcoin. McCarthy did, however, say what Bitcoin is not where it needs to be yet, alluding to the risks of cryptocurrencies being used by criminals and money launderers. Well, what about, why do you say stuff like that? They're like, what about the United States dollar? You're never going to stop that from being used to engage in criminal activity. It's just nonsensical. It's ridiculous. Unless you want to talk about privacy coins being used to conduct illegal, nefarious, illicit activities, that would be a legit conversation. But Bitcoin, on which you can track everything on the ledger, no, that's stupid. So that talking point's got to get dropped. But anyway, so here's the last part I wanted to read from this article. While Libra promises more stability, McCarthy remains concerned. And here's a quote from him. When I'm on Facebook, I'm not the customer, I'm the product, he said. Ain't that the truth? Facebook is free because they sell your data to make money. Now they want to get into your business, and they're not Bitcoin in this Libra. They're not decentralized. That's true, they're not decentralized. Despite a plan to be decentralized over a span of 5 years, I still wonder how the heck that works, and especially given that it would still be backed, as far as I know, even 5 years out, it would still be backed by a basket of fiat currency, so who knows. But anyway, just seriously, it's amazing just in in the world of politics, entertainment, everything, how much cryptocurrencies are talked about today. I mean, you just had President Trump tweet about Bitcoin for the first time ever just the other day, so very fascinating. And people are going to be paying attention. This is not going away. I don't care. You can put your head in the sand. Cryptocurrencies are not going away. Some of them are going to have staying power for a long, 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 long time. All right, here's another tweet from Anthony Pompliano. He writes, had a meeting with $4 billion RIA firm today. The questions are getting more nuanced and intelligent. They realize Bitcoin and crypto aren't going anywhere. They see the geopolitical game at stake. Politicians are helping legitimize this space. We should be thanking them. And don't all these pieces I pulled up together and planned for you, don't you see how they perfectly come together? look at this. Adoption is coming, and it's just another instance, and this is why I firmly believe institutional money, however long they take, it's coming. And I think a lot of the reason institutional money is sitting on the sideline, it's not all just skepticism. That's part of it for some, no doubt. There's plenty of that out there, but a lot of it has to do with custody as well. And when you got those two, but once those two are really tackled, you're going to see at some point you're going to see an increase. Well, we are seeing an increase, but it's going to increase more, and then the rate will exponentially increase, and then it'll at some point be like the floodgates open, and there's going to be another crazy bull run. I will predict that without putting a timestamp on it, because I don't make price predictions, not nothing specific, but I do believe that is coming here. All right, now here's a thread that I was teasing at the beginning of this video from Galgatron and Peter Zacharias. Peter Zacharias being an XRP fudster, so I scrolled to the proper spot here for me to pick up where I left off on the previous video. And again, if you didn't see the last video, don't worry. You can go back and watch it if you want to see the beginning half of the conversation. But I don't, just kind of like scrolling through this, I don't think it matters in terms of context if you don't get it, because they're just arguing back and forth. So anyway, guys, I want to make sure you got your popcorn ready. Did you pop it while I was talking throughout the rest of the video? Because here we go. All right, so Galgatron asks him, how are you blaming an overall market downturn on Ripple? And then he responds, I'm not blaming anyone. Galgatron responds, but that's the only reason XRP went down, contradicting your notion that Ripple's fundamentals would have made shorting a good decision there. Peter responds, XRP did not appreciate because market doesn't believe it will in the near future. That's the only reason why. It was technically bearish the whole time. Bitcoin wasn't, and that's why it went up while XRP didn't. And the Galgatron responds, but XRP went up 30% during the same period. How would shorting have been the best choice there? And somebody else chimed in here and wrote, XRP is still right on the coattails of Bitcoin. Well, okay, and then Galgatron responded, right, as all coins are. Isolating XRP from the overall market gyrations is senseless. Thank you. Yes, brilliant. That's what I think every time people say garbage like that. That's why I'm going to keep bitching about this, frankly. I keep seeing articles, and I keep seeing analysts pointing out, like just trying to put XRP in the highlight, and just spouting a bunch of negative nonsense about it. And when the market's going down, it's going down. And don't focus just on XRP just because you a hater out there. Anyway, Peter responded to the Galgatron's last statement there. He says, XRP did not appreciate at all. It went to a level where it was a year ago and will keep depreciating over time because the supply will increase. Galgatron responds, very simple math, Peter. It went from 30 cents to 40 cents over the past couple months, and only now because the whole market is crashing, it's now losing purchasing power. Exactly. And Peter responded to that. The point is, the market was not crashing, and XRP did not move at all. It failed to move because monthly chart was, and still is, bearish. If Bitcoin ends up going down to 1,210 USD, XRP will go to 8 cents USD at least. Okay. Galgatron responds. That's an even lower prediction than what he said before. He's the one that was predicting as low as 13 cents. Now he's saying 8 cents. Jeez. All right, anyway, so Galgatron responded, you can deny it all you want, facts are facts. Mid-May, XRP went from 30 cents to 45 cents and respectively held 40-ish range until the steam ran out of Bitcoin when Bitcoin dropped from 14,000 to currently 9,700, sinking the entire market. And he's got a chart showing exactly what he just said. And Peter responded, okay, if you want to intentionally miss my point, have a good one. And Galvatron responded, I did not miss your point. Or I did miss your point, not intentionally. Maybe paraphrase without using loaded/ambiguous terminology. I like that. And so in response to that, Peter says, and that's coming from you, seriously? My point was Bitcoin did appreciate before correcting. XRP did not appreciate at all, maybe 30% tops, which is nothing, in comparison to Bitcoin, but it's already gone back down to even lower levels than it originally bounced off of. And Galgatron responds to that. No, 30% is healthy by anyone's definition, and it's just returned to baseline. No losses. And the fact that Bitcoin has magnified in value looks shockingly similar to the pattern exhibited in 2017, right before XRP overtook it in market cap after a long stagnation. And guys, that's kind of the point that I was making in my last video. My last video was almost entirely about price. Especially as it pertains to XRP, because it's down to 29 cents today, at least when I made that video. I don't know if it went up or down since then. I haven't checked in a little bit. But my point was that if you look historically, the price court, look, it moves in tandem, but since, here's the cool thing. If history repeats itself and XRP remains correlated, it will move up, even if there's this little delay that we do typically see historically from XRP. If Bitcoin rises, XRP will too, if history repeats itself. But the cool thing is, if you're invested in XRP, the multiplier effect would be greater after a parabolic run than if you invest in Bitcoin, and that would also be true if you pick a small cap coin or medium cap coin. If you pick a winner, if you happen to, the multiplier effect would be greater because there's less money in it, and that's what we've seen time and time again. Now, I'm not willing to just throw my money into anything, so I'm happy to put mine into XRP because I still believe there's an opportunity for a greater multiplier effect. So anyway, all this to say, I think that a parabolic run will eventually happen. I do not believe the all-time high of XRP of $3.92 will be the highest it ever reaches. I think it's going to smash through that. It's just a matter of time. Even if it's years from now, I don't care. I'm more patient than everyone else, so I don't care what it's doing in the short term. I'm not going to panic sell. So I want to share that with you. One last thing I want to share with you here before signing off, and this is a different thread. Galgatron's in this one also, but it's on the, I should have teased this one too because it's actually an interesting topic, but it has to do with the max supply of XRP. And so somebody named Crypto Sifu, and then parentheses writes, janitor at the Expendables. That's an interesting name. Don't know what the hell that means. Anyway, he tweeted at this. I'm sure it's been covered and I either overlooked or absorbed something that caused an information overwrite, LOL. But could anyone clarify why settled on 100 billion XRP? So why was there a max supply of 100 billion XRP? That's what he's asking. Right? Galgatron responded to this. A total of 100 billion XRP was ultimately chosen for psychological reasons, meant to give the impression of abundance and practicality to global adoption. Drops are the real count. And by the way, in case you don't know, drop is the smallest fraction of a single XRP. So XRP is divisible by 1 million. So the smallest unit is a drop, whereas Bitcoin, it's divisible by 100 million, actually, so it's divisible substantially more. And the smallest unit of that is a Satoshi. All right, so anyway, drops are the real count, though their current valuation of far less than a penny makes drops impractical in most use cases. Totally true. And I want to make a point here before reading a little bit further. I've said this before, but in case many of you haven't heard, people look at how much XRP there is relative to Bitcoin, and the math works out to something like 4,700 times more XRP. But if you look at the smallest units of measurement, a drop versus a Satoshi, because of the ways in which they're divisible, which I just cited a moment ago, there are only about 47 times as many drops as there are Satoshis. And so I think that as you have global adoption of XRP, just like right now you see Bitcoin being traded in like fractions of a Bitcoin, like you'll buy maybe a tenth of a Bitcoin or less, maybe buy more, maybe buy half, whatever. But most people aren't buying whole Bitcoins at a time these days. Well, XRP, here's the cool thing. This is my own original thought on this. I haven't really heard anybody else talk about this. But I think as more money comes in, I don't know what XRP price is going to be another 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, but I believe as more money pours in and you get a market cap into the trillions, it's certainly reasonable that people will begin to look at XRP in terms of how it is divisible. And maybe some people will legitimately buy fractions of an XRP, or they'll buy 5.5 XRP or 20.5 XRP because that's what they reasonably want to put in. And when people start looking what's after the decimal point, that's when things are going to change conceptually. People aren't going to be like, oh yeah, there's 4,700 times as much XRP, which is psychologically the way people are factoring things in now. But as things progress beyond that, I think that people are going to begin looking at, oh yeah, okay, in terms of drops versus Satoshis, there's only 47 times as much, and psychologically, you will start to realize there's not, the difference between quantity of XRP versus Bitcoin is not so great as people once conceived, and so that will be factored into the price in the future. It is not today. That's my theory, but it will be in the future at some point because people will look at it differently. But that will take a while. That will take a while because you're going to need a lot more money before people are like, yeah, I'm only buying half an XRP today. So that's just my own thought of that. But anyway, somebody responded named Raphael. Responded to Galgatron. 100 billion is not psychological. It is for the intent of global scale. That would be about 12.5 XRP per person in the world, plus there's already 49 billion in wallets. 100 billion is actually not the huge number people think. Galgatron responds, if the decimal place was one higher or one lower, it wouldn't make a bit of difference in terms of math. The only difference is psychological. It could be a global currency just as easily if there were only 10 XRP, but nobody wants to think with so many decimal places. Exactly, I am firmly on board with him on this, okay? if there's 10 XRP, but you can, if it's divisible by even more than Bitcoin, because again, Bitcoin's divisible by 100 million. If it's divisible by a billion or more than that, whatever it is, the smallest units of XRP are still there, and they're just as functional wherever you put the decimal point. And that's what people are missing. When they're factoring, they're saying there's 4,700 times as much XRP as there is Bitcoin. They're not thinking about that, but they will. And so that's another reason I'm super glad that I am way into XRP super, super duper early. Even though, yeah, okay, I wish I could have gotten in when it was like half a cent. Okay, but whatever. It could be worse. I could have discovered it like a decade from now. Anyway, and so then Crypto News Radio responded here. Galgatron, with all the XRP the banks and institutions are loading up on and the cheap cost to use XRP, how long do you think it will take for them to need to go to the open markets, especially if they shut off the OTC markets? Thank you, Galgatron responded. Banks are not loading up on XRP. Perhaps market makers and liquidity providers and exchanges, sure, but for banks and financial institutions, they only need to use XRP to get XRP liquidity without having to purchase their own. And then somebody named Terrence responded, Galgatron, if they only need to use XRP to get XRP liquidity without having to purchase their own, how is that going to raise the price of XRP? Sounds like the institutions will get their XRP over the counter, and there won't be a positive impact on XRP or on the exchanges. Okay, and I've talked about this before, so I don't want to get into it too much, but as XRP comes out, even if it's purchased from OTC, if you're a market maker and you do purchase from Ripple, even if it's OTC, it does take XRP out of the ecosystem, essentially, if you want to utilize it for buying and selling. So in that sense, OTC sales, they do still impact the market price. It's just not as glaringly obvious as if you're making a large purchase on an exchange. That would, especially with such little liquidity as an asset class, even with XRP, that could dramatically affect the price of XRP in the short term. But what causes XRP price to go up, and this is just one of many things, but I think this is what this guy Terrence was trying to find out, is what's going to cause it to go up. Well, it's business entities holding XRP, so buying it and then selling it and then buying again to conduct these cross-border transactions, and they're making the fees associated with it. They're not making money on the appreciation of XRP because they're constantly using it. It's just the fees. That's the whole business model for that. But as more and more corridors are developed, that's where this is all going to come from. That's the whole theory anyway. Let's see if Ripple pulls it off. I'm bullish on that. Let's see if it happens. But as that happens, that's what's going to affect supply and demand. That's one of many things. And then there's, of course, retail speculators as well. And so Galgatron put his blog post there, which is a great blog, by the way. I have read that one. It's from a while back, though. And so Terrence is saying, great blog post, but that doesn't really speak to my question. My question was in relation to the price of XRP not moving a lot when the institutions start using XRapid and XRP, because they'll be getting it over the counter as a pre-aged price. And am I wrong? And if so, why? And Galgatron responds, XRP sold over the counter has nothing to do with XRapid. XRapid gets its XRP from exchanges. That's absolutely true. And so what I was talking about is with market makers has to do with a different business model entirely, where you're just making money on the buying and selling. If you're talking in terms of liquidity, yeah, so like obviously we all know, right? Exchanges are sources of liquidity, and they're tied into XRapid. Bam, there you go. Makes sense. So anyway, that's all I got for you today. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!